Welcome to my video on lymphatic histology, or histology for the lymphatic system. Fair warning, if you hear barking, growling, fighting, squeaking of the toys, just know nothing to fear. It's just my dogs in the house. So hopefully they'll behave while we get through this. Okay, so I've kind of outlined or just listed here the things or the structures that we're going to be looking for the lymph node. So we're going to do the lymph node first. So let's start off by just looking at a lymph node. And here's a better picture that's zoomed out to where you can see the full lymph node here. When we're looking at the lymph node, first things first, we need to identify the cortex and the medulla. So the cortex is always going to be the darker portion, and it's going to be the area that contains the follicles, the lymphatic follicles. So this would all be your cortex. The medulla, on the other hand, we'll use a green. So the medulla here, I should have started over here. This is all medulla. It's definitely lighter in color than the cortex, or when compared to the cortex. So here we have the medulla outlined in green and the cortex around it that contains the lymphatic follicles. So let's go back to this image here. And I'll outline for you our circle. This is a lymphatic follicle. Here's another one here. Here's some here. There's one. Here's one. Any of these little circles where you see the dramatic color difference is a lymphatic follicle. So the follicles, and here's another image where you can kind of see that it's just a different shading so that you can kind of see a different perspective of if the slide is shaded with, say, pink, or if we're going to use a purple shading, whatever is used. The slides are always different. Every slide is always going to be different than the last. So there I've circled some of the follicles that are present. This area here would be your medulla, and then this would be your cortex out here. So another thing that we need to find in this structure would be the trabeculae. When I'm looking for trabeculae, I'm looking for an obvious difference in color, of course. The trabeculae, to me, always seems a little bit more dense and resembles a tissue. I would say a tissue, or tissue-like appearance. I don't even know if that's an accurate description, but that's what I'm going to describe it as. So here in this image, you can see the capsule here, which is always going to be found if you can find the apical surface here, our apical surface. You can find your capsule, and then it should go straight into the cortex region and then the medulla. I'll circle for you here. This is another trabeculae that's easily seen. Here's a trabeculae here. It's kind of hard to tell but that would be a trabeculae as well. In this image, you can see capsule here. And this is a nice trabeculae there. I kind of covered it up. Trabeculae here. Trabeculae here. There. So you kind of get the concept. So the next thing that we need to look for is the medullary cords and sinuses. So medullary cords and sinuses are going to be found in the medulla. So this image here is showing you, this is like a zoomed out, this is way more zoomed in here. This is just a small area that we've highlighted to come here. In the medulla, you'll find your medullary sinuses where there's an absence of things. So just a blank area here would be a medullary sinus. So this would be a medullary sinus. Of course, this area here would be a medullary sinus. Here, okay? And the things that surround the medullary sinus, where you have these lymphocytes, which are these little cells here, are the medullary cords. And I'm going to get another color here. Okay, so your medullary cord, here, and medullary cord. Okay, so that sums it up pretty much for our lymph node. Now, the biggest thing when trying to figure out what slide you're looking at, or what am I looking at? Am I looking at a lymph node? Am I looking at a spleen or the thymus? We need to remember and always go back to, we have our follicles in the cortex. Okay, so let's go ahead and move on to histology of the spleen. So with the spleen, we're going to have white pulp, red pulp, and in our white pulp, we're going to find our central artery. Okay, so this is a awesome picture when we're trying to find these. So this would here, this darker region would be our white pulp. So I'll put a W. This would be white pulp here. And then all around the white pulp is our red pulp. Inside of our white pulp, we find our central artery. Okay. Let's look at a few more pictures of the spleen. So this would be white pulp here. And it's kind of hard to see, but this would be white pulp as well. This would be your red pulp over here, and red pulp over here. Inside of the white pulp, we have our central arteries. Okay, and it looks like this one's one too. This would be the capsule of the of the spleen. And when I'm looking at this spleen picture, I'm noticing that the white pulp, which could appear to maybe be a lymphatic follicle, is all throughout the spleen and not just localized into the cortex region, okay? Here would be a trabeculae, and I would say that these are trabeculae as well. Okay, we have our central arteries, our white pulp again, and this would be red pulp. Okay, I have one more picture for the spleen. Let me change my color here. Okay, so we have a beautiful trabeculae here, trabeculae here as well. Here's a trabeculae there, and then of course all of our areas of white pulp. And in our white pulp, we're going to have our central arteries. This is a trabeculae here. Let me try to circle that again. So this is trabeculae. This is red pulp. Red pulp. This would be a trabeculae here and a trabeculae here as well. There's another one. Okay. So, moving on. We're going to have the histology of the thymus. So for the thymus, we're going to be looking for the capsule trabeculae, pointing out our lobules, finding cortex and medulla, as well as thymic corpuscles. So first, let's look at a thymus. So this would be a thymus here. You can see right off our capsule, which is of course near our apical surface, and let's change colors. Okay, so this is a lobule. This is a lobule. Lobule here. Lobule here. So you see how they're all kind of separated, right? Lobule. This small one is a lobule here. Okay, so you kind of get the idea. When we're looking at the lobule, every lobule is going to have its own medulla. So this would be medullas here. Medulla. Medulla here. And medulla here. Oh, my M's crazy. Okay. And then our cortex is just going to be our darker portions. So all of this here would be cortex. All of this here would be cortex. Cortex, cortex, cortex. Okay? Then we have the thymic corpuscles. So these look like little rosebuds. And they vary in size because, they vary in size because it depends on how many dead T cells that are that they contain will change the size. If they don't have a lot, they'll be smaller. If they have a lot, they'll be larger. And on this slide as well, we can see a trabeculae right there. Okay, so here's another image of the thymic corpuscle here. And here's another one for the trabeculae. Okay. And here is your capsule right there. Okay. So that concludes our video for lymphatic system histology. If this video helped you at all, please remember to help me out by subscribing to my channel, like the video, leave a comment for feedback, share if you can, so that YouTube will let more people see my videos. I appreciate it. Thank you for watching.